The screencast is about constant value parameters for the methods of our class. So let me make another copy of our program here. And, you know, in my view, this is a pretty minor issue. But, you know, in some textbooks you'll see people doing this, and so I just want to, you know, touch this base. So as you know, with the reference parameter, any changes that we make inside the method will be reflected in the original object. So here, for example, we're inserting a time object into the output stream, and therefore it must be passed in as a reference parameter. Same thing with our input stream here, and of course we want this time object passed in as a reference parameter because we're actually extracting information out of the input stream and we're storing it in this time object. So any changes that we make to the time object during the process of extraction, we want those changes to be reflected in the object that's passed in as the parameter. In this case, we're not changing the time object, but anytime we're passing in a class object that could be large, what we do is we pass it in as a constant reference. We pass it in as a reference because that's often efficient in terms of the size of what we're passing in. We're not making a copy of the object to pass it in as a parameter, and then the use of the keyword ensures that we can make no changes in the implementation of this method. When we get down to here, we're passing these in as value parameters, and you know, it's expected that these are not going to change either. As you know, we're just passing these in so that we can store these values in the private data members. Clearly, these are not values that should be changed in the implementation of the constructor or the implementation of the set hours method, the implementation of the set minutes method. So one thing that we could do to make this implementation a bit tighter is just declare as constant parameters any value parameter that should not be changed. And there are just, well, I think that's it. And so we also have to declare in the implementations that these are also constant parameters. And do the same thing for the set methods. And again, this is just a final detail to make the implementation a little tighter. And I think that's it. So let's compile this to make sure that we have our syntax correct, and we do. So again, that's how you would just ensure, and sometimes you're doing this to communicate to the person who's implementing this class that the new hours and new minutes should not be changed. Sometimes you're doing this to make sure that these are not changed.